Hi, sweetheart. We're reading in A Course in Miracles, the text, chapter 30, the new beginning, section 6, the justification for forgiveness. Let's do this. Let's justify forgiveness. Paragraph 1. Anger is never justified. That's a pretty potent sentence, and I think that would be pretty controversial to ego, because our ego thinks the opposite, that anger is nearly always justified. I'm going to read it again. Anger is never justified. I'll pause here and say, that doesn't mean that we can't be angry. We can be angry all we want. There's just no justification for it if you get to its root. Attack has no foundation. It is here escape from fear begins and will be made complete. Here is the real world given in exchange for dreams of terror. For it is on this forgiveness rests and is but natural. You are not asked to offer pardon where attack is due and would be justified. Okay, let's pause and talk about that for a second. This is amazing. When we're being asked to forgive, we're not being asked to pardon where attack is due. We're being asked to see that forgiveness is completely unnecessary and has no justification, because anger has no justification because nothing's wrong. I know that's radical, and I'll tell you, the first time I read through the text, my ego was in open rebellion the entire time. I was like, this is stupid. Sometimes I'd even be like, I hate this teaching. So if you're feeling resistance to this, welcome to the club. But let's keep reading. It's worth it if this is where the escape from fear begins. You are not asked to offer pardon where attack is due and would be justified, for that would mean that you forgive a sin by overlooking what is really there. This is not pardon, for it would assume that by responding in a way which is not justified, your pardon will become the answer to attack that has been made, and thus is pardon inappropriate, by being granted where it is not due. Pardon is always justified. It has a sure foundation. You do not forgive the unforgivable, nor overlook a real attack that calls for punishment. Salvation does not lie in being asked to make unnatural responses which are inappropriate to what is real. Wow. Instead, it merely asks that you respond appropriately to what is not real by not perceiving what has not occurred. Okay, I'll pause here and say, so we're being asked to look past the nightmare and the delusion. If we were at an insane asylum, which, let's be honest, that's pretty much where we're at in the world of man, would we go around and condemn people for being crazy? Or would we pity them? Would we offer them healing if it was within our ability to do so? Salvation does not lie in being asked to make unnatural responses which are inappropriate to what is real. Instead, it merely asks that you respond appropriately to what is not real by not perceiving what has not occurred. If pardon were unjustified, you would be asked to sacrifice your rights when you return forgiveness for attack, but you are merely asked to see forgiveness as the natural reaction to distress that rests on error and thus calls for help. Forgiveness is the only sane response. It keeps your rights from being sacrificed. So beautiful. I'm going to read that prior sentence one more time. But you are merely asked to see forgiveness as the natural reaction to distress that rests on error and thus calls for help. Letting go of grievances. I mean, this crazy person in the asylum keeps calling me names. Is my anger justified? Or would it be more appropriate to be concerned and recognize they need help? This understanding is the only change that lets the real world rise to take the place of dreams of terror. I'll pause here and say, I'm going to speak for myself. I get really upset sometimes when I think other people have the ability to not be sane, or have the ability to be sane and that they're choosing to mistreat me. But what if, and this is just a thought experiment, what if a sane person would naturally do what brought about the best results? And we already know, each one of us knows. We've experienced it in some small way. Letting go of grievances, letting go of the pain is the most sane thing to do. But we don't want to do it. So let's admit each one of us is a little bit insane. Because we would rather be right than happy. And that is insane. Because rightness offers nothing of value. And it's also not real. It's very subjective, and no one's going to agree on what's right anyway. So it's a complete waste of time. And it serves no one but the ego. Go into a war zone and go to both sides. They're both right. They're both 100% convinced that they're right. And that's why they're killing each other. Fear cannot arise unless attack is justified, and if it had a real foundation, pardon would have none. The real world is achieved when you perceive the basis of forgiveness is quite real and fully justified. While you regard it as a gift unwarranted, it must uphold the guilt you would forgive. Forgive in parentheses. Unjustified forgiveness is attack. Okay, so let's talk about that last sentence, and then we'll end it here for today, because this is a really radical change in the thought system of ego. This is radically different. So for me, I'll just speak for myself, this took time for me to digest, and I don't expect anyone to digest this quickly. And if you're able to, I am in awe of you, and you're amazing. Unjustified forgiveness is attack. And this is all the world can ever give. Okay. So if we're saying, I'm up here because I'm better than this person down here, because they've sinned and I haven't sinned, and because I'm better than them, I'm going to look down on them and I'm going to pardon them from the goodness of my heart, because I'm better than them. Even in this, we are trying to justify attack. It's a form of attack. It's literally saying, I'm better than you. I am without sin. It reminds me of the parable. Well, it reminds me of there's the story in the Bible where a woman is caught in adultery, and the law allows for that woman to be stoned to death. And some of the religious leaders were trying to, who were, obviously hostage to ego, fear-driven, and intimidated probably, I'm guessing here, by Jesus, who people are listening to, and who seems to have a lot of wisdom. And they're trying to get him to say or do something against the law. So they're saying, but they also know we have account after account of him being merciful and kind. So they also know he's probably not going to want to stone this woman to death. But is he going to tell her to go against the law? So they ask him, kind of setting up a trap, like, we've got to stone her, right? Let's go. And his answer is, let he without sin cast the first stone. Only the ego compares. Was the woman committing adultery the worst sinner compared to the people who wanted to kill her for her mistake or error in thinking? or whatever they were projecting upon her. Because, see, the people that wanted to kill her, they thought they were righteous. The only way out of the insanity is to see the attack has no foundation. There is no sound basis for wanting to kill other people or hurt other people, ever. We may have to protect ourselves in self-defense on a physical level, but that has nothing to do with forgiveness. We have to see forgiveness as merited in order for it to be true forgiveness and in order for it to heal ourselves and others. And that's a really tough pill to swallow for the ego, and I'm going to suggest that it's impossible for the ego to accept that, because it would tear apart its very foundational thought system of better than, worse than, good, bad. Let's talk more about this. But for today, let's just sit with the thought that anger is never justified and that attack has no foundation. And that true forgiveness isn't looking down on someone from a judgmental stance and granting them a pardon they don't deserve. But let's see that that is actually also an extension of attack. Okay, thanks for being here. I'm going to speak for myself, saying some of these thoughts are, my ego can argue it all day. So I don't let it. I just say, I'm going to sit with this. I'm going to let Spirit illuminate my mind. And as I do that, examples come to mind of times in my life where I was judged, where I was, from my perspective, misjudged. But how right the other person thought they were, and how that felt. And how I don't want to be the person who's doing that to everyone around me. Thanks so much for being here. I'll see you soon. Mwah.